Hello and welcome back to the Jolly Ranchers YouTube channel. We are a very small team. It's just me and Zach, the editor of this video, making a video game called The Kid Detective, the greatest murder mystery game that will ever be created. And this week we are continuing to go through the wonderful world of Fungus, and we will be learning how to use clickable sprites, like in a point-and-click game, and draggable sprites, dragging something across the screen. When it gets to somewhere, it does something. You know. And I will be showing how to do this by showing how it's possible to make a card game in Fungus. I don't go all the way there, but you can get the idea, and maybe I'll finish up the video later by making blackjack or something down the line. Also, we recently did a game jam, and because so many people asked me to come up with like a Monkey Island point-and-click character controller, I came up with it. And you can download it for free in the link below. I'll be making a tutorial on how to do this later, but it was kind of a success. Has a few bugs. I only did it in 8 hours, so it's not that great. But it's super great. And without further ado, click like and subscribe and comment on anything else you'd like to see. I love ideas, and let's get into the video. Okay, hello. Today we are going to be getting into the world of sprites. Up until now, we have had a game with very little images. It's been a text adventure only. But the great thing about Fungus and Unity is that it can do a whole bunch of stuff. So today I'm going to attempt to at least show you how making a card game could be possible in Unity. I'm going to use the beautiful Kenny's free pack of board game assets here, and I'm going to show you how to bring them on in to Unity and use them in your game. You can do this with whatever, stuff that you draw, stuff you find on the internet, stuff you pay for. So I'm going to, download this. La-ti-da. And I'm going to go to my file folder, go to my downloads. I double-clicked on the zip folder to unzip it. And now I'm just going to pull up Unity, and I'm just going to drag this beautiful pack of assets right into my project folder. And there it goes. It's uploading. See you in a bit. Okay, our assets have finished loading. I'm going to go in here to the sprite sheets, and I'm going to go down to the playing cards, because I am determined to make a card game of some sort, or to show how it might be possible. So I'm going to set the sprite mode to multiple, because there are multiple cards in this sprite. I'm going to click on the sprite editor here. I'm going to apply the settings that I just changed, and I'm just going to see if it can automatically slice these babies into the discrete cards. And it turns out that it can't, because they're all pressed up right next to each other. So I'm going to have to figure out how big each of these cards are and slice them as a grid. After dragging this box around, I have determined that these cards are 140 by 190. Slice, and if I am happy with the result, which for the purpose of making a video, I am so happy with the result. So I'm going to press apply. And now look at all these beautiful cards that I can drag in here. So Fungus comes equipped with clickable sprites, draggable sprites, drag target sprites, which would be the place on the table that I'd want to put a card, We can go over that later. These guys are what we're going to be using to make this game of blackjack or something like that. To start with, I'm just going to drag some cards out here. I'm going to name this one Queen, and I'm going to name this one 4. Okay, now we are going to go to our flowchart. I still have the old blocks that I created last video, and I am going to show you the beautiful sprite event handlers. So, let's see what we can do. This event will execute when we start dragging something. Let's say in a card game, you might want to show, maybe for accessibility reasons, for people who don't understand what the value of maybe a queen is in blackjack. I'm gonna be honest, I don't. I think maybe it's an 11. You could create maybe a text box in the corner. We went over text boxes last video. We'll make sure that no text is in this text box. And when you start your drag, we could, theoretically, using Fungus, display the number of the card that you're holding as you drag it. I'm going to drag this text object in here into the set text command, and I am going to set it to 11. I'm going to set the size of the draggable object list to 1. I have not put the draggable 2D script on her yet. Either you can create your draggable objects by going up here, Fungus, create Draggable Sprite, and then you would change the sprite renderer of that object to display the queen. Or you can go down here to add component, type in draggable, and draggable 2D will come up, and you can add that component right here. You can even change the cursor of your mouse when it hovers over something that's draggable. Ooh, how appealing. I think I'll do that. I think I'll change it to this plus symbol because it was right there, and that's how easy it is. And so now back at our drag started block, I'm going to drag in the queen. And let's see what happens when we start our drag. RuPaul's Drag Race. Start your engines. Okay, as you may have seen, I overlooked some things. I went up to Tools, Fungus, Create, Draggable Sprite, and I saw that the Draggable Sprite has a few more things than just the sprite renderer and the Draggable 2D script. It also has a collider so that the computer can tell when the mouse is hovering over the thing you want to drag. So when you click, it drags that thing and not another thing. So that's why it has a collider on it. It also has a rigid body 2D, which is sort of a physics object, physics simulator, so that it can simulate what it's like when you drag the object around. So let's go ahead and add those things to our queen by doing the same kinds of things. We can add a box collider 2D, make sure is trigger is checked, and I am going to add a rigid body 2D and make sure that it's kinematic. We can adjust our box collider to fit the edges of our card, but it did it automatically. If you have something that's not shaped like a perfect box, you can always add a polygon collider or a capsule collider or a circle collider. As you can see, when you create a draggable sprite or a clickable sprite from the tools menu, it comes automatically with a box collider 2D, but you can click on the dots here, remove the component, and then create the collider that you want so that it's shaped the way your object is shaped. It could be confusing for players if they click over on a corner somewhere and it drags something that they don't expect because they're not clicking exactly on it. So let's play our game and see the fruits of our labor. Wow, look at this drag. Look at that. Now, I don't see that our number has displayed, and when you stop dragging, it goes back to where it once belonged. So that's something you should know about how it inherently behaves. Let's see why our text object isn't... I was using a set text instead of a write text command, so that's my bad. I'm going to use a write text command to display the number of the card that you're dragging when you start dragging it. Okay, after some absolutely genius, look at how good this game looks right now. Plain blue background, numbers appearing absolutely nowhere. It's genius. So, you can do things when you start dragging your object. Now let's move on to the next thing that can happen when you drag something. The drag canceled execute on event execute when you stop holding down the mouse, when you stop dragging the thing around, when you release it. I dragged in the same queen that we've been dragging around, and I said that when we cancel the drag, we want the text box to have nothing in it. You know, we're not holding something of the value of 11 anymore. We are holding nothing. We have nothing. So as you can see, it says 11. I unclick it, and it writes nothing into the box. Absolutely nothing. So that is the drag canceled event handler. Now let's drag this thing to somewhere. We want to say, like, when you drag the card onto the table or onto a certain point in space, that you're playing the card, perhaps. So let's make a drag target sprite. By default, it is a mushroom because that's Fungus's thing. We can't blame them for that. And I am going to make my drag target a white square so that it's super obvious. As you can see, the drag target comes with a circle collider, and I am probably going to want mine to be a box, a nice box where a card goes. I'm going to make my box big so you can tell that's where a card goes. I know. I'm going to remove the circle collider. I'm going to replace it with a box collider 2D, which it automatically fits perfectly, and you just love to see that. I'm going to make sure it's a trigger and not solid, because if it's not a trigger, if you don't click is trigger, you won't be able to drag the object through it, I don't think. Actually, let's see. This could be valuable information. No? I think because it's a kinematic rigid body that it doesn't care about walls like that. Now I'm just getting curious. If you switched this to dynamic instead of kinematic, and you had a drag target sprite that wasn't a trigger, would it just hit it? Would it just hit it like it's a wall? Oh, well, that's what happens. So it fell because it thinks that there's gravity. It's a dynamic thing. So I could set the gravity scale to 0. I'm really going outside of the bounds of what I expected myself to do here today. No, it doesn't care about the box collider. That's cool. That's fine. It's probably because its box collider is a trigger as well. Huh. What happens if I turn that off? See, this is how you figure out how to use things. Interesting. Oh, look, it got all sideways. How fun. Look at the ways you can play around in Unity. I'm going to switch this back to kinematic. Okay, so we've made our drag target sprite. And so, therefore, we are going to use the drag entered event handler. We are going to reference the draggable objects we want to drag to the drag target, which would be all 52 cards in the game we might want to drag here. That's where things could be a little bit complicated, or you'd want to have multiple drag target blocks if you were making a card game. But for now, I'm just going to drag my queen in here. And the target objects, which is our drag target, we are going to drag our drag target in to the target box. Lots of dragging, lots of targets. Okay, when you drag the queen to the drag target sprite, I'm just going to say, that's the queen. Let's go in here and let's test it. That's the queen. It knows as soon as we enter the region, I haven't dropped it yet. As soon as we enter, it acknowledges that that's the queen. How wise of it. So let's see what happens when we complete the drag. We drop the queen into the target that we're going for. So right here, I will put the queen is the draggable object we want to drag to the R1 drag target that we have. And I kind of want the card to disappear for funsies to show a cool effect, maybe. I am going to scale the queen. I'm going to scale it down to nothing. Should be a fun effect. I'll make another text box. That's sort of our card total. I'll drag this box way up high. Okay, our queen is gonna get super small, and then we are going to write the total of the number we got. We can actually save the total in an integer variable, which I will call total. When we add the queen, I will use the set variable command, and I will add 11 to the total. And then we're going to write in the total box. This is how you write the value of a variable, curly bracket, $, and then we will write the variable name, which is total with the capital T, and close it with a curly bracket. So let's see if this works. We're dragging it. That's the queen. And if we complete the drag, it disappears into nothingness over here, which is a little bit bizarre, and it writes the total up here. So we're starting to get the beginnings of some sort of blackjack style game. It's not pretty yet, but we're learning, and we're gonna find out how to do it together. So last but not least today, we will do the drag exited, and this will execute when you exit the target drag area, just the opposite of drag entered. So we'll say, oops, my mistake. This is a very talkative card game that we're playing. Once again, you want to make sure you include whatever draggable objects you want this block to apply to. You're going to want to drag them into here. Hopefully you would have a game that was so efficient that you would have all 52 cards in each of these, and it would make sense of which card is which just all by itself. You would have a genius game, but today we're just learning the basics. Let's see the drag exited happen in front of our eyes. And we've made a sassy little game. Just, it's so sassy. It wants to remind you of your failings. So this is the extremely bare bones version of how you might create a card game. The very last thing in this video is clickable objects. I went over them in detail in my how to make a point and click adventure game series that I did a while back. But let's go ahead and let's create a new block. We are going to go to sprite and the very last one, object clicked. Now we need a clickable object with the clickable 2D component script on it. So we're going to go up here to tools, fungus, create. And we are going to create a clickable sprite. Let's go ahead and zoom in. This thing is in absolute nowhere land. So I want to drag this. In fact, I'm just going to zero out its transform position, and hopefully it will be where the main camera is. It is. I'm just gonna make this look like another card. This will be the jack. And I am going to reset the box collider so it fits that square shape that we know and love. And as you can see, it's got the clickable 2D script on it. When you hover over it, you can change the cursor to be something specific, same as we did for our draggable object. And I am going to drag our clickable sprite in here. And when we click on it, I am gonna do something crazy to it. I'm gonna punch scale. These are some cool animation effects that might be good for a simple card game with some simple effects. So let's click on our clickable object. We dragged it into the event handler. It'll wait 1 frame before executing. Wow! Wow, what a zany little object. We can't drag it, but we sure can click it. Now, but can you have a clickable object and a draggable object at the same time? I'm gonna drag the queen in here. As you can see, I added the clickable 2D script to a draggable 2D object. Let's see what happens when we click it. Oh, it does. It punched the scale of the jack because I didn't change that command. So let me fix that. These are various tools you can use to make cool visual effects. That visual effect could be cooler. As you can see, this game looks terrible right now, but you can very easily see you could make nice looking effects for a card game pretty easily. You can see we're sliding under this drag target right now, and we can change its order in the layer to be something lower than our queen so that it appears over the drag target, like so. So I hope this is a good start to understanding the way sprites and images work in Unity. I hope it's a good start to all these draggable and clickable objects and everything you might be able to do with them in a game. So I hope this was a good introduction. Okay, as you can see, a card game is very possible in the wonderful world of Fungus. You can also use the clickable sprites to make a point-and-click game super easily just by themselves. So that's just some more tools in your toolbox. Next time on these Fungus tutorials, let me know what you need, what you want the next video to be. Audio, something about images or animations, or if statements, like if you have an inventory item and you give it to somebody, then you get through the locked door, or you get past the security guard, or what thing in Fungus you want to hear about next. And if you don't know, then I certainly do. So it'll be okay. Until next time, stay jolly.